Hey everyone, Coasters and Places here. Welcome back if you've watched one of my videos before, or welcome if this is your first time tuning in. So I have a great video for everyone today. I am going to rank and talk about all 8 of the Hyper Coasters that are currently operating by B&M, Bollinger, and Mabillard in the United States. So it's just going to be Hyper Coasters, so no giga, it's just the Hypers. If we did throw the gigas in there, then we would know who would win. It'd be Fury. But we're just going to focus on the Hypers for this video. So again, there's 8 of them that are currently operating in the US. And I've luckily been able to ride all 8 of them. So yes, let's get started ranking them, and we're going to start with number 8. My number 8 pick is actually going to be Raging Bull. Now remember, you can't go wrong with B&M Hyper, but this one, in my opinion, is just my least favorite one that I've rode here in America. It does have a nice 208-foot first drop. It's long, over 5,000 feet, reaches 73 miles an hour, so this thing does haul. I do like the tunnel. This is at the bottom of the first drop. It does have a great first drop. But what ranks it low for me is it has a twister layout, so it's not as focused on airtime as the rest of the B&M Hypers, which some people really like the twister layout that Raging Bull has, and other people are more like me and prefer the more airtime packed layouts. Also, the airtime hill, there's an airtime hill on this thing that has a trim brake, and it's like, it kills it, and that's pretty annoying too. But with that being said, it's smooth. I really love the first drop on this ride, and I still love riding Raging Bull. It's definitely not a bad coaster. It's a wonderful coaster. Number 7, I have to put Intimidator, which is now going to be known as Thunder Striker, which honestly is a stupid name. But this video isn't focused on how good a name is. If it was, then this one would definitely be last. No doubt about it. But Intimidator. So it has a nice first drop. There's some really good floater air that you get at that second hill. And the problem is there is an airtime hill that it's trimmed. It's going to greatly affect the rest of your ride. If that is not trimmed, the rest of your ride is going to be pretty good. There's lots of floater air overall. The second half really dies on this ride. After the mid-course break, there's a couple good pops of airtime after the second half, after the mid-course breaks. But, you know, the reason why it's down low is because that airtime hill, if it's trimmed, you're going to have a significantly not as good of a ride. And also that second half, I think, is pretty weak as compared to other B&M Hypers. This is, at number 6 is Candemonium, which is the newest B&M Hyper in the US. But newer doesn't necessarily always mean that it's going to be the best one. Okay, so some perks is that this thing absolutely flies down that first hill. Like, it is hauling. It's got great camelback. And there is a nice hill in the layout that has at least 4 seconds of floater. That is just an amazing moment on a B&M Hyper. This one in particular. Overall, I feel like it doesn't have a lot of elements like some of the B&M Hypers. Just really doesn't. They could have added more in to the coaster for sure. So the trims do kill the second half of the ride, and they're pretty strong. But with that being said, the first half is, I think, still better than Intimidator's first half. So that's why it's at 6. And the circle around the fountain at the end, I think, is really wonderful. Makes a nice visual effect that they did put that fountain there. And just how the coaster just goes around it, I think, is really great. But I just really can't rate Candemonium any higher than number 6. Number 5 is Goliath at Six Flags Over Georgia. This starts where I think the really great B&M Hypers are. We don't really have any complaints on them. So this one in particular, it just has great large airtime hills. The downward helix that it has gives a lot of G's. instead of having an upward helix like some of these Hypers have. There's just tons of overall airtime. There's even airtime on the small hill into the brake run, which is crazy that they had to build that in, but I love it. And that airtime is ejector airtime. It's not floater. But there's all over strong floater airtime with some ejector airtime mixed into this coaster layout. So it's just overall an absolutely fantastic coaster. I don't really have any complaints about it. Smooth, great layout. There's just 4 coasters that I prefer more than this one. Number 4, which may be a bit controversial, is Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. I know some people don't think this coaster is that great, and other people love it. So I put it right here in the middle at number 4. I think it pulls a lot of G's overall throughout the layout. The pre-drop it has actually gives some ejector, and overall it has fantastic floater throughout. The first camelback is great. Like, love that first camelback, and all the camelbacks have the strong floater. And this one has the pretty intense upward helix, which Goliath had the pretty intense downward helix, and Apollo's Chariot has the pretty intense upward helix. I do prefer the helix on Apollo's Chariot over Goliath, and I don't find this coaster rough at all. I think even though it was opened in 1999, being the first B&M Hyper, I think it's held up well for its age. Absolutely fantastic coaster. My third favorite B&M Hyper is going to be Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure. So Nitro has a great first drop. Lots of overall floater airtime going on here. The helix has a lot of lateral G's that's right before the mid-course brake run, so that's kind of a unique thing with this particular B&M Hyper. After the first drop, we have a lot of great camelbacks, again with that great floater airtime going on with Nitro. There's good airtime in the front or back, but in the back there is so much sustained floater in the back. You'll be going several seconds over some of these hills with this airtime that Nitro has. It's an incredibly smooth coaster with a wonderful layout with just so much airtime packed into this thing. Absolutely fantastic. Number 2 I have is Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. So Mako has what I would describe as a good amount of yank over that first hill. And after the L-shaped turn Mako has, you get a hill that has like a ton of ejector airtime, like full-fledged out of your seat airtime. I love that moment. There's also a 5-second hill with a lot of floater airtime that is in the layout, and a lot of the airtime, the floater airtime, it borders straight on ejector on this coaster. So it may be floater, but it's honestly borders on ejector, more like flowjector airtime, so to speak, I would say, for a lot of it. And also, you can't overlook that beautiful setting that Mako has on the water, Mako's smoothness as well. I think a lot of people do put Mako as their number 1, and I can't argue with that. I definitely understand why Mako would be some people's number 1. But there is just one hyper coaster that I like better than Mako. My favorite hyper coaster in the United States is none other than Diamondback over at Kings Island. So I may also be a little bit biased because Kings Island is one of my home parks, so I've rode Diamondback more than any other coaster on this list. But I think Diamondback has an incredible first drop. It has an exceptional sustained floater airtime throughout the ride. And the airtime on the first camelback is like incredible. It's just really great. And it doesn't lose momentum in the second half after the mid-course brake run either, which some of these hyper coasters tend to lose some momentum. Diamondback, I don't think does lose that momentum. And if you do ride in the back of Diamondback, you get more like flowjector airtime on Diamondback. Instead of just floater airtime, it's borders on flowjector. And Diamondback goes out into the woods, makes for a fantastic night ride, and that splashdown towards the end, of course. Who could forget about that? That's absolutely wonderful. So that's all why I picked Diamondback as my favorite. Just so many reasons to love Diamondback. Did you agree with my list? What's your favorite hyper coaster in the United States? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and thanks so much for watching.